You're listening to the Vacation Rental Key with T&T, the podcast for vacation rental managers by vacation rental managers. I'm Tim Cafferty, and I manage two companies, one in Virginia and one in North Carolina. And I'm one of the two T's.
And I'm the other T, Tiffany Edwards, born and raised in the vacation rental business. I help manage our family businesses from Key West all the way to Kauai.
In the next 30 minutes, we're going to give you our keys to success in the vacation rental business. We are coming in hot today off of our last podcast, Tiffany. I'm getting messages from people who are finding terrible Verbo listings. Got one this morning from one of our listeners that we missed. They said, you missed this one, but it was a fun episode last time, and we have a great one in store for you today as well.
Oh, yeah. We have now kicked off summer. It's happening. And all the preparation of talking about trends and data and, everything that we do within our business is related to data. I am so excited to have Sally Henry here today and to really talk through KeyData. We've been a big time user of them for years. And we were talking about this off record, but I've been one of those annoying individuals who's called and asked many times, what are we seeing in other locations? Because I actually use it from a regulatory perspective. The amount of data that you guys have is incredible. And I'm so excited to get a little bit deeper into this conversation. So Sally, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Tiffany and Tim, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
For anyone who might be living under a rock, do you mind sharing a little bit about what KeyData is, or if they haven't heard one of our episodes before where we've referenced it?
Of course. So at KeyData, we specialize in having excellent data. We're the single source of truth for data to help property managers understand, first of all, how they're performing and then how they're performing compared to the rest of the market. That's the critical key here. So we provide access to not just dashboards. We have some amazing dashboards, but also access to data for people to take it into their own environment as well. So we are a wealth of data in any way that anyone wants to consume that data. But the tools have been built over sort of the last 8 years. We're taking feedback every single day, and the world keeps changing, and we keep evolving and trying to bring the best tools to make sure that you can excel in the way that you run your property management business.
And that is not a Florida accent that we're hearing. Tell us about what you do specifically with the company and your role.
Okay, yeah. So I'm based in Yorkshire in the north of England. I've been with KeyData for 3.5 years. So I joined to help grow their EMEA, so Europe, Middle East and Africa. So we have emulated what was done so well in the States, and we've taken it around the world. So I've been running that for the last 3.5 years. My role is about to change. I'm going global, my friends. I will be coming to the US. So I will be sharing all the data insights and market intelligence to property managers around the world going forward. Historically, I was a property management company for 19 years in the UK and across Europe, the biggest in the world. I've been in the industry 25 years. So being able to get into all these markets and speak with the background of data to really help property managers to connect that data, because data is fabulous. I love it. But not everyone has time to understand what it means and what they should actually do with it. And that's what I'm going to try and help bring the data to everyday life for property managers.
So speaking of data then and property managers and being able to digest, what are some of the greatest trends? We've talked in past about the booking windows getting shorter, but what are some of the trends that you're seeing that you believe will define the next 5 years of vacation rentals and even from the States to a global perspective?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a really interesting question. Yes, the booking windows, as we said, we've talked about this today, have got shorter. And it's interesting to see, actually, it's probably more prolific in Europe. In Europe, we're seeing I'd say a bimodal booker. So people booking really early and booking really late. So property managers are now having to almost reinvent themselves to say, how do they appeal to both sides? It's a very different strategy. In the US, it's a little bit more uniform. So yes, we are still seeing that late booker. I'd say 1 in 4 are booking within 14 days. So, you're having to handle that both in terms of your pricing and operationally, how are you responding to that? But the other, it's a little bit flatter. So it's steadied down a little, has the US market. And also actually some of the booking windows have actually got a little longer for the summer. And we can take a look at July the 4th weekend. We're seeing some really interesting things coming through. So the market's settled down a little, but we are seeing a flat to negative demand, really. So we're seeing this demand a little repressed, but rates are holding strong. So when we look at that RevPAR or that revenue, we're actually seeing positive signs. Revenue is up, but in most cases, it's being pushed up by the stronger rates rather than that demand or that guest paid occupancy. So it's a balancing act. We know it's a fine balancing act. How do you price in a market that's coming in a little later? When we see these length of stay contracts, we need to adjust those prices to make sure that they're priced correctly for short breaks, because your operational costs are obviously increasing when you've got additional turnovers. So it's a real mixed bag, and it is obviously, to your point, you'll know it's very different per region. It's very different on the portfolio that you're running. If you've got the luxury higher end in certain locations, you can command that longer duration and command the longer booking lead time. So I think it's what we're seeing at the moment is demand is flat to negative. Rates are holding really strong. The booking window has steadied, but that's coming in late. And to the point is, I've been in the industry for so long. When I joined, you could only book 14 days in advance because you had to post a confirmation. And now we're seeing like 1 in 4 coming in. But how do you plan for that? It used to be, oh, well, let's use the ATAs to pick up those residual late bookers for it. They're a bonus. Let's just bring those in. Actually, they're not. 1 in 4 is not residual. So having that strategy for those late bookers as well is super important. So I think it's being adapting to the environment that we're currently in. It's an ever-changing landscape, and the agility that property managers are having to be on the ball. I'm going to say they have to be using data and on the ball, because it changes potentially every day. And reading those signs and getting ahead of your competition is where you need to be dialed in.
Love to hear you say that. Just yesterday, I was looking at bookings. We took 8 bookings for stays within 4 days of that date.
Yeah.
We also took 2 bookings for 2028.
Yeah.
So I'm completely average, is what you're telling me.
I was going to say, these are averages and they differ, but I think that's the reality. You need to attract both elements, or all elements of these booker profiles that are putting their hand up right now. You don't want to be categorized into just attracting one, or have a very succinct strategy so you understand where you're getting these different pockets of bookers from, because they're all out there. And I think that's the reality of it. You want to get those 2028 bookers, Tim, and they spend the most and they stay the longest. And,
Yes.
And we'll overlay this. Something else we're seeing that's coming through is we're seeing an increase in cancellations. So how are you going to try and respond to that within it's just another pain point, right? So when we say you're flat in occupancy or down a little in occupancy, you've also got this acceleration of cancellations that we're seeing. So you're having to resell just to stay flat, right? So it's kind of all these different factors that are coming in, as a lot of it is external factors that are influencing how the guest is behaving right now. But it's a pain point for property managers in how they handle that. So again, having eyes wide open and understanding that demand is there. It could come early, it could come late. You need to be ready for both. But equally, cancellations are more prevalent. They're more prolific at certain different channels than the others. Understanding what that is for your portfolio as well is part of your mix, and how can you resell? There's an awful lot to navigate. Hence, data should underpin and help you every which way you can, because there's an awful lot of moving parts right now.
And what I'm hearing from that is you should be looking at it every day. You can't just set it. You can't just set it and forget it. Those days are long gone. So those of you who are listening, who are looking at it every day, congratulations. But also, if you do not have the years ahead open, you need to have a strategy in place to have those open. I agree with you, Tim, on that 2028. There are people who are already planning those things out and want to have it on the books. So
How about any destinations that you look at as whether it's a bellwether that I want to look at this destination to see what is indicating for others, or maybe it's an emerging destination? Is there any particular spots that you look at more than others?
I've taken a look, and again, this becomes down to your own relative supply. What are you looking at? And there's a few we can look at. So we're seeing some of the luxury markets perform a little stronger. They've got really strong pricing resilience, and some of these macroeconomic factors that we're seeing across the globe are not seeming to impact them as much. So markets such as Cape Cod, Jackson Hole, San Diego, Ocean City, they're all faring really well. They're all managing to command that higher rate. And they are faring better than some of the more budget orientated destinations at the moment. So if you look at Myrtle Beach, Charleston, North Georgia mountains, they're actually seeing some real sort of drops in occupancy. So different, I think, what is your portfolio and who does it appeal to? And how are you going to attract that guest? And are you able to offer real price resilience because you can command it versus this price elasticity we might not be able to command with some of those lower budget, shall we call it, destinations. And I think you just need to put on the news. You don't need a data dashboard to see that. What are the economic headlines being hit with? How is gas prices making, some destinations just unattainable? How are airfares coming into the mix? So there's a huge amount of external impacts as well that you just need to put yourself in the mindset of the guests. But equally, Sim, to your point, we often see, I see it more in Europe, we see displacement from different regions and areas as well. So if a particular location is overpriced or it's full, we see this disbursement to other areas. And I think people have got to be really aware of that because a guest is going hunting.
And I want to dive a little deeper into that too, in terms of just your thought on that portfolio of kind of a luxury, because you mentioned Charleston and that and some of the North Georgia coming down, but some of those in some of those areas may have larger homes. So defining what a luxury is or luxury market, because there's still high prices as it relates from a hotel that drive up in Charleston. How does that compare when you look at like the Jackson Hole or the San Diego? What are you looking at in an area that kind of defines that hope, that luxury? Is it the actual market, or is it the inventory, sizing, pricing?
Yeah, and it's really hard. Luxury, the definition of luxury is different to everyone. So, we have ADR tiers, or we have percentile tiers, I should say, to really help define it, because you can't always categorize it. We don't have tick luxury, because your luxury might not be mine. I spoke at a luxury conference last year, and I thought I knew luxury, and the average weekly rate was £250,000. So, luxury is like, okay, that's not my luxury. There's a different world. So it's effectively, I think it's a mix of inventory and it's your percentile tiers of what rate is being commanded in those places. And some of it is where are the more drive-to destinations, which can appeal to the more cost-conscious as well. So the experimental and some of the experiences people can get out of those luxury destinations too can help set those rates a little higher. So,
are there any markets in particular that have surprised you as of late, as we speak to that, or, that are going against the trend and their reasons why, or any outliers?
There is one that's kind of gone against the trend. So if we took May, and we can see most people are down in occupancy, but up in ADR and sort of a steadying booking window. Hawaii is a state that's probably stood out more than any across every market that we followed. So it's actually 9% higher occupied in May compared to the negative that we saw elsewhere across the US. And the ADR was 2% down. So literally the flip. Now, we often see this probably more so against different parts of Europe. We see people sacrificing occupancy and rates all the time. We can sort of see that flip. But in the US, it's really interesting because we saw everyone with that occupancy down and higher rates, whereas Hawaii have literally flipped it. The average length of stay is a bit flatter. It's obviously a lot longer is Hawaii. It's over 6 days, 6.4. But the average stay value is down. Obvious reasons, the international traveller, some of the Asian market probably not travelling as prolifically to Hawaii. So they're probably really trying to reflect that in their sort of affordability of who is coming to Hawaii. What are the airfares? What is that cost? So again, some of these geopolitical factors in play, which are maybe going to explain that one away.
How about any signals you look for that tell you that a market is about to either take off or maybe it's about to cool down? Is there something you see?
What a question. What a question. I mean, there's the real obvious ones. Okay. Sort of knowing your own booking window and, are things coming in faster? What's the pace? I mean, they're fairly natural revenue questions, like what's the pace coming in? If we took it a step back, I like to look at the slightly broader view as well. So looking at the infrastructure around certain locations and have new airlines come in or air routes, which is going to open up your feeder markets. That's a huge one that, what is something that is fundamentally changed that you can take advantage of. So looking at that infrastructure and again, looking at events, like if we look at the Soccer World Cup, which is round the corner, which I'm so excited about. Being English, we're desperate to win, and I can't see it happening. But anyway, we have in Europe such a prolific follower of soccer. So there's going to be a whole new audience opening up, which we've seen. And we've seen this supply increase in host cities and in a varying mix. But effectively, we're opening up a whole new audience. And it doesn't have to be a large worldwide soccer tournament. We see it around concerts. We see it for lots of different reasons. It can be more, I suppose, short-lived, Tim. But what we might see is actually you're opening up the destination to people that wouldn't necessarily have come for another reason. And maybe it's up to the destination to keep them coming back. Events can be a super way to dial in additional momentum in. What I would say is if we look at the Paris Olympics last year, everyone was in 2024, everyone was incredibly excited about the Olympics. What happened is so much supply came in into Paris itself that by the end of the summer of the Olympics, the property managers we were working with actually made less money across that than they had done. So what should have been this huge opportunity became diluted. One of the beautiful things about our industry is we can ebb and flow like a snake eating a huge antelope. I'm sure a snake doesn't eat a huge antelope, but it can like ebb and flow, right? So we could suddenly extend. There's very few barriers to entry in many locations. So we can take on additional inventory and then close it off again. So that tends to be what we see happen for events. However, it displaces and it deconcentrates the supply that's already there. So what starts off, if for those property managers that weren't paying attention, they were 3 months out enjoying some brilliant growth in both occupancy and rates. And then all this extra supply came in. And if they just sat and left it, what it meant is they were suddenly left open very close to the Olympics and they weren't full and they'd outpriced themselves. So I think it takes us back to, regardless of big events or anything we see happening, being really dialed in and staying agile because these dynamics are changing all the time.
It's interesting too that you mentioned in the supply, because I think even thinking it outside of an event perspective, we've talked before about with regulation coming in and you losing supply, regular economic indicators would say, okay, well, you have less supply, it's going to drive higher demand. But we've actually seen the data show that they move outside to other marketplaces because there's a consumer hesitancy of, will I be in compliance? Will I be kicked out? Is my money safe? But then also at the same time, in our area in Walton County, we have so much saturation and we've continued to grow since COVID, but it has not slowed down any of our demand. So I don't know if you have any kind of comments on that, but there are little pockets where that supply demand doesn't necessarily hit the mark.
I think I love that because it's so localized and you need to understand what your dynamics are for your localized the supply. What we see often with regulation, if we see regulation come into, say, a particular location or a city, I'll give you an example over in the UK, like Edinburgh it was regulated. We saw supply drop out straight away. Like it just left because people couldn't get a license. What we saw then the following year is that both hotel prices and short-term rental prices went through the roof. They were so high because of that whole supply and demand. But since then, the readjustment has been very real because it outpriced itself and it couldn't supply the right inventory for the guests that they wanted it. So we've just got to be really careful. So when supply comes out for different reasons, we have to be careful that particular, to your point, it doesn't either outprice itself or become that it's not valuable, or that guests don't feel that it's a destination that they'd be welcome at. So actually they go elsewhere. And I'm not sure if you saw some of the protests across Europe. I don't know if it hit the US news, but, across parts of Spain, there's people literally with picards and shouting and water guns spraying tourists. And that's not somewhere you'd want to put yourself at. Like if you were a guest thinking, well, where should I go? You go, okay, well, I don't fancy that. That doesn't feel like the best way to spend my money. So I do think regulations have a huge impact on both consumer choice and that supply constraints that we see.
Sally, what's a question nobody asks you, but they should?
Do you know what? I would say I I get asked the really obvious: how's supply, how's demand, how's pacing, how's your channel's performance, etc. I rarely get asked about how do I get new owners, which I find a little strange because owners are the lifeblood of every single property manager. They are the fundamental core. Without owners, property managers don't have anything. So I'm surprised that that isn't raised more as a fundamental data point to say, how do I get more owners? And it's not just more owners, it's how do I get the right owners? And I think that's really important because you need to make sure that all your hard work is for the right property that's going to bring you everyone in, the right sort of booking, the right revenue, with the right partnership with that owner. So I think that's probably what I rarely get asked, Tim, but I feel we should. They might be asking someone else. They might think I don't know the answer to that one.
So if I were to ask you, because I think that's great, and it also shows that you have experience in property management, because people who don't just say owners, numbers, they
Yeah,
call them units, right?
yeah,
Just to Tim's
100%.
aggression.
100%.
Yes. He's allergic to that word. But so I can tell your background, but if I were to ask you that, what would you say? What would be your answer? What would you draw to?
Yeah, so probably two things. One is we do at KeyData, nothing to do with this question. We do have an owner acquisition tool coming out next week, which helps answer that. But I think taking that one step back is what sort of owner should you be going for? Like it's not just a numbers game unless you are building your business for sale, and it's one of the metrics that's important. So I would suggest that it's about understanding and identifying owners. I was on a call with a property manager this morning, super lovely, and she was saying about an owner. She said the properties are terrible. She said, we all know the properties are terrible, but I feel really sorry for them and I want to try and help them. Now, she's wasting so much of her time and she goes, they don't even fit in with my brand. So I was like, oh my God, you've got to churn there. You've got to get rid. So I think it's about not being afraid to make sure you're getting the right inventory and saying no to things that aren't necessarily your portfolio, because you're spending an awful lot of time on your brand and your properties are a reflection really of your brand. So I would say investing in your property owner recruitment. There's a really interesting brand across in Denmark that's opened up, and 80% of their portfolio is brand new to the vacation rental market, right? Really interesting. They've got over 7,000 units now in the space of a couple of years, right? I know, Tiffany, you've gone like that. I can see. So, that's not normal sort of inventory rate.
Anxiety.
The reason they've done it is because they've offered super, super flexibility. Now, I'm not saying everyone can do that or should do that, but it does make you start to have a little think to say, are we stuck in a way where we talk to our owners with barriers? It's going to mean that actually they're not coming into the industry because it either feels too much or it's, so it's really interesting. I'm sort of watching that with half an eye going, that's really fascinating me to say that there's room for people. You kind of think you've got all the properties, but then you're surprised by a new stream. So I think just reinventing yourself. What I used to see when I worked for the large property manager as well, we used to do consumer TV advertising. Now, not everyone can do TV advertising, but this is like a small lesson that we saw when we did an awful lot of brand awareness, whether it's through TV or, online, etc. The owner acquisition went up at the same time. It was really interesting because then what you're seeing is the owner is seeing that brand is everywhere. Yeah. And again, I think it's taking that step and saying, we were often siloed in a business to go, it's owners or it's guests, but quite often it's a combination of the two. Property managers are just squeezed in the middle like a small husk, like everyone wants something and they're left. But it's quite an interesting way of looking at it. Your brand is that extension, and often when you're talking to one, you're actually talking to the other side as well.
I want to add on to that just really quick, because being involved in mergers and acquisitions, I will say that for the longest time, a part of our industry is you say what your property count is first, right? Hi, my name is Tiffany. I have this many properties. Yeah. And that's kind of how you judge someone's business. But our business has evolved so much with additional add-on fees, concierge service, how well you run your business, your geographic location, and the quality of those properties, that now I believe that a lot more of the investors that are coming into the space are really trying to look at what the quality is as opposed to what the overall unit count. Now, There are some others that don't care about that, but if you want to get better, better dollar, I think that they're
Yeah.
looking at really what those operations and qualities are. All right. So speaking of that, they didn't ask, a lot of people aren't asking you this question. What are some other things about vacation rental success that you wish everyone knew? So where else are we kind of missing the mark? We know what question we're now not asking, but where else are we
Yes.
missing?
I would start a little bit to your point there, Tiffany, like what is success for you and your business, right? Because success is not the same across everyone. So are you building a lifestyle brand for you and your family to really enjoy? Are you building for acquisition, in which case your portfolio count is super important? Are you trying to maximize profit? Like it might be trying to do all three, but I think don't get carried away with everyone else's narrative. Think about what is success for you, and it can be a whole host of things. So first of all, like that you're unique. So you as a property manager and your business is 100% unique to you. So start with that and don't get carried away by other people's measure of success. I think that would be my starting point. And also, I think it starts and ends with people. So your team and who you're taking, like what are you doing it for? I read a really lovely LinkedIn post from one of our clients who had just hit 50,000 bookings. She went, that's 50,000 groups of people that have been away and shared a moment. Now, that could be success for someone. Other people might need to hit a numerical profit number, and that's their success. So I think for being successful, it's about understanding your own journey and monitoring that and not being so down. It's a tough industry in many ways because the margins are slim and you're navigating both owners and guests. So I'd suggest be kind to yourself, set yourself your parameters of what you see as success and keep measuring that and keep moving it along because the world keeps changing. But I think I'd start there. It's too hard to say you need to hit a certain revenue number because that's not everyone's dream. And it's too hard to say you're going to hit a certain number of properties because you might be in a situation where there's just not that many there. But to your point, Tiffany, again, like, I want to be offering a concierge service. I want to be making sure that we're known as a brand that is encompassing all these different feelings for the guests. So define success, I think, and understand what it is for you and your brand and share that with your people and your guests. And hopefully you'll delight both sides.
Are there any specific data points that you can point to that you feel like help really generate overall high level of success, right? Which is, I think, for anyone is return on investment time, wherever that is, based on however you decide to get there on your inventory. But are there specific data points that people should be looking at daily and stay consistent with?
I think some of it's about not leaving money on the table, right? Which comes to your pacing, your pricing, your occupancy. So not having regrets. So I would always say have a very intentional strategy, whether that's for your pricing, whether it's for your distribution, whether it's for your add-ons that you're trying to sell. Have a really intentional strategy and hold yourself accountable to that. So if you say, okay, we want to grow, we want more direct bookings, like, well, what are you doing to achieve that and what are your milestones you're setting? So I think it's about being in control. What we see, for example, with the OTAs is they're almost like they keep feeding you and people are like, okay, I've got more books, more bookings. Is that the right sort of booking you want? Or do you have to go and say, actually, I want to build my direct strategy to attract more, or I need to increase the number of repeat guests that I'm getting? And in which case I need to really invest in that and understand it. So I think be intentional rather than just hope that the market's good or you've just altered your pricing. I think it's a wider remit than that to make sure that you are hitting all the different sort of tick boxes that you need to for your business across.
Wow. So many keys you've given us today. And I am going to risk my run of good questions here with one last one. You've already given us some great insights about demand is negative, but ADR looks okay. But when you look at 2026, we're exactly halfway through. You've had the first months of analysis. You have some ideas about what's happening here over the next 60 to 90 days. What do you think 2026 is going to look like overall for the vacation rental management industry?
I think we're going to end up, I mean, when we look at those signals, RevPAR is positive. So if it's like one metric that we're doing, that's like, have you got your occupancy right? Have you got your rates right? So that your RevPAR is going to tell you that. RevPAR is currently positive.
Just in case anyone who doesn't know what RevPAR is, will you explain it? Because there could be someone who's listening who's just thinking about getting into the vacation rental industry or just wants to learn. So RevPAR is?
Sorry, it was so jargon orientated. An easy way is revenue, right? So revenue per available rental, but effectively you take your occupancy and you multiply it by your rates. So it's going to give you this, like it's a combination or the balance of the two. So if your occupancy is too high, your rates are probably too low. And if your rates are super high and you're only 20% occupied, it doesn't matter how high your rates are. So it's that balance. And it's the one metric when you're combining your occupancy and your rates that you're going to take away. So if your RevPAR or revenue is increasing, it means you're getting that balance right and that you're going in the right direction. And I think, Tim, back to your original question, RevPAR is positive. The booking windows have settled a little. The length of stay is settled. So the last few years I've been presenting data going, we continue to see the length of stay contract. We continue to see the booking window contract. It seems to have steadied, but it's coming in different ways. So it's a little polarized. So you understanding for your market what is right and being able to respond to that. But if you're dialed in, I think the demand is there. It's how you capture it. Something that I've been doing a huge amount of work on is who's capturing this late guest. And we probably need a whole different podcast on this, but we see ADRs come down as we get closer. We're seeing actually that it's smaller property managers on this case study I've done. It's smaller property managers that are winning out. And it's obviously the OTAs are winning that late guest. Now, if property managers need to get serious about that 1 in 4 that are booking within 2 weeks, and actually we need to understand that profile and make sure. So if you can capture that as well, I think 2026 is going to end up hopefully positive, but it's probably single digit positive. It's not the fly away double digit positivity as an average. Hopefully if you're in a pocket and you're outperforming for all these different reasons, then you might be able to stretch some of those growths. But use your RevPAR or your revenue to sort of give you that ultimate guide of are you growing in the right way?
Well, I think we have enough keys. It's time to dig a little bit deeper into some rapid fire. We've gotten you a little off kilter, so we're going to answer these real quick and get to know you really well.
So this is a series of little inane questions we ask our guests to find out more about you. So Start the clock. Okay, Sally. Manchester United or Manchester City?
Manchester United.
Oh, okay.
Didn't even hesitate. I like that.
No hesitation.
I'll throw in the normal one that we always ask. Where's your favorite vacation spot?
I would say right now, Greece.
Oh,
The Greek islands.
What's the most exciting thing about what you do?
Oh, people. 100 trillion%. Meeting different people. Every person I meet is an opportunity to have a great relationship. So yeah, people for sure.
As a property manager, what's one data point within KeyData that you would get up and be most excited about looking into every day?
Tiffany, I'm such a nerd. I live all day. I live, breathe, and die.
That's why it's so hard for one. Rapid fire, girl.
I think I'd probably have to go with that RevPAR. Like, it's a metric that helps you explain that success. So if I had to, but please don't make me do that again.
Okay. All right. How about one thing on your bucket list?
Oh, it's a rubbish one. To run a marathon.
Cool.
Very impressive.
Only because I realise I'm never going to be any younger than I am today. And if I don't do it soon, I'm just not going to be able to.
All right. What is one way that you personally use AI to help in your life every day?
Okay, I probably use it at work more than my own personal world. I've been pulling loads of random data out of dashboards, and then I drop it to say to Claude, make this visually strong for someone that doesn't understand data. So that's what I'm trying to do. I get cross with Claude. I was telling him off this morning because he was not telling it back in the right way. So you've got to be really careful. But mine is to help with that visualization so we can help connect the data to somebody that's going to look at a screen for the first time and go, whoa, what is it? So I'm actually it's helping me dumb it down, which is wrong, right? But that's how he's been helping me.
I appreciate that personally.
Okay, I got two more of my usuals. One is if you're scanning channels on the telly and you come across that show or that movie that you stop and watch, even though you've already seen it 15 times. What is it?
Oh, Grease. It's the finest movie of all time.
Oh, that's the first one. No one's ever said that. That's a good one.
Oh my God, does that mean that I'm really...
Oh.
Yeah, Greece. I love it. And do you know why? It's because I used to go to my two best friends' house. They're still my two best friends. And we all used to take a part. And I also used to have to play Frenchie because I'm ginger. There we go. There's my line.
Tim, you just stumped me. I forgot what my next question was. I have to pull it back up on my notes. You can hear us while I'm looking back for my moved it over. I was just thinking of John Travolta looking good with his little curl over his face.
Yeah.
And Sandy, yeah, I love it.
I had Sally more in the Sandy role. So anyway, that's on me as well. Okay, I'll take the last one here and then you can come back in. A skill or talent that you do not currently possess that you wish you had.
I'm going to say this because on our KeyData retreat, we went to karaoke. I am the worst singer on the planet. And I'm and I'm fine with that because I'm really sporty. I'm good. But you can't have everything. I'd love to be able to just wow everyone in a room and start singing, but I can't, and I never will. So I've come to terms with it. It's fine.
Okay, I had to what mine was. What are you most excited about in your new role?
Oh, coming across to America and meeting everyone. I mean, that's just so exciting. So yeah, coming across, there's so much to learn. I love learning, right? I love sitting down and hearing everyone's business stories. They're all unique. And trying to figure out how we can help them. And some of the times it's just chatting about the wider industry and coming up or linking people. I love linking people to people. So I'm so excited to come across and meet the whole of the USA industry.
Fantastic. We can't wait to meet you. And so that wraps up our little game. And unfortunately, you win nothing except for our appreciation for you playing along. So that is Sally Henry. She did have the title of Vice President of Business Development. Now she is Market Intelligence for the World at KeyData.
Indeed. Exciting.
Wonderful having you on. We look forward to seeing you in person and so many keys today, Tiffany. It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we actually got an inspiration for another episode of how to get that last minute booker. So I really appreciate that. We've got to put that in the pipeline somewhere, Tim.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sally. Have a
Thank
good rest
you.
of your day. Appreciate you over there in England coming on with the time difference and working it out. And I'm sure everybody's going to love this episode as well.
Well, listen, thank you so much for having me. Really, really, really appreciate it. Really lovely to meet you.
Until next time. So long, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.